Hello, everyone. Welcome. Tonight we have a jam-packed night with the Office of Early Childhood as well as the Connecticut Project. To get us started, we're going to kick it off with the Connecticut Project, going through their toolkit and reviewing some of the things that they've been working on. We have here Braley Dodson kicking us off, and I'll pass it over to you. Reminder to everyone, if you need interpretation services, please click on the box on interpretation and kick off with the language that you prefer. So you're able to hear the questions in either language. So Braley, go.
Hi, thank you for having me. I am Braylon with the Connecticut Project. So we have a resource guide on our website right now to get people connected with some of the changes that are happening in SNAP and when people can expect it and then where they can go for help. There's a lot of uncertainty right now about when changes are going into effect. We had a lot of chaos at the beginning of the month. We really wanted to provide a resource where people can find the most up-to-date information. So I dropped that in the chat. The first page is in English and the second page is in Spanish. Wanted to let people know, what is going to happen, and what changes are going to affect on December 1st. That's when thousands of people in the state will start losing access to SNAP because of new work requirements. We have links there so you can find out if you can expect to lose SNAP and then where you can go if you can. So we wanted to make sure that we're not just connecting people with food pantries, but that they're finding mutual aid sites in their communities. There are a lot of people now I know who are donating to those instead of food pantries who feel more comfortable going to a mutual aid organization, and really that people are able to access and find food in a way that really works the best for them. Additionally, we are encouraging people to take action to tell their lawmakers that they need to commit to protecting Husky and SNAP during the regular legislative session starting next year. We really do welcome the $500 million dollars that have been placed into a federal response fund this month. However, the governor does need to announce how he is going to plan to use that money so that way we can meet the moment and protect people from losing their health care, their food, their heating assistance that might be cut. We are also calling over 200,000 SNAP recipients starting this week to tell them if they might be losing their care and then connect them to these resources as well. But yeah, you can also access that resource guide by going to tcpactionfund.org and clicking on our resources tab. Mhm. And I just realized I might have accidentally placed the wrong link in there, so I'm putting the updated one in now. So let me know if you have trouble seeing that.
Perfecto. It looks like it's the correct one. I just opened it. Yo pienso que es el
Okay,
correcto. I think it's the right one. Yeah, I just opened it and it worked for me. The second one. I didn't open the
perfect.
first one.
So additionally, I'm going to share the link here to our Action Center, which is encouraging people to get involved and to write their legislators. We're also asking people to share their story with us. We've received hundreds of stories so far about what people use SNAP for, what they use Husky for, how it's changed their lives, the people they know whose lives have been changed, what they expect might happen if they lose it. And we're getting a lot of extremely powerful stories in there from parents who are already skipping meals that way their children can eat and they don't know how they're going to make ends meet if they end up losing their care. So in that link, we also have that page in English and Spanish as well, with links to petitions, sharing their story, and then also resources on there to not only find your food pantry, but when you can expect some of these changes to happen and how you can apply for SNAP and Husky.
Okay. All good, Braylee? Awesome. Well, thank you for the resources. We appreciate all the work that the Connecticut Project is doing for the communities, and we hope to share this as well on our social media page, as well as through our email links. Um, as you know, our listserv is pretty vast, so tonight we were setting up a conversation with the Office of Early Childhood on Portal and trying to make sure that parents get engaged in that conversation. And I'm sure there's a lot of people on this call that if they don't need those resources, they probably know someone who need those resources. So thank you, the Connecticut Project, and thank you, Braley, for the information. And I'll pass it over to Jill Marini from the Office of Early Childhood to kick us off with a portal discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, we are glad to be here tonight. I am joined by Justin and Gabriella from Civic Solutions Group. They are partnering with us to do a lot of this human-centered focus on our portal work. A little bit about me. I don't even know what hat to tell you I'm wearing tonight. Tonight, I will just tell you I'm wearing the project management hat for the portal. I'm also the interim CCDF director and the director of strategic initiatives and cross agency planning. So I wear many hats, but the best part about that is many of the things that I do in those three roles are overlapping. So I'm not as busy as you might think. So we're going to talk a little bit today about our one entry portal. We are actually, let me just put a pin right here. We're working on a better name than one entry portal. We've narrowed it down to about 4 contenders that we're going to put before our interim commissioner to vote on. So we will have a much better name, hopefully the next time we see you. But tonight we're going to talk about the vision for the one entry portal. We'll do some conversations. We'll talk about our approach to the portal design and how we're making sure we're doing stakeholder engagement across the state in all groups who will touch the portal. Excuse me, we're going to touch on the parent experience and what we've heard so far. We're also going to touch on the provider experience. We're just listening and learning what's important to both parents and providers. And then we'll talk a little bit about the next steps because this is a 2-year project and we're just at the beginning. So we're going to go over where we are. Oh, go ahead, Justin, you're good. So our vision for the one entry portal is basically that there are 4 points of entry or 4 groups of people who we need to make sure that this portal is going to work for and it's going to be functional for them. The first one is parents and guardians. The vision is to create a one-stop shop to learn about providers, determine eligibility for free or reduced cost care, and to enroll in an available seat in a child care center. The next
Aba
bucket
bạn suy nghĩ ba nhầm.
that we are talking about or we're focusing on is early childhood providers. Our focus to make this a powerful tool to market to families, collect and manage enrollment paperwork, and give them access to tools for day-to-day business operations that will support them in operating their businesses and maybe, lighten some of that load that they're carrying. The third bucket, of course, is us, the Office of Early Childhood. The operation of this portal will give us access to real-time data and information that will greatly increase our efficiency, strengthen the workforce, and lead to more children being able to access care. The vision is if we have the data about where parents and what kind of care parents need, we can put spaces in those communities and make them available. And then finally, it's the broader public, advocates, legislators, philanthropic partners, those who come alongside us to do this work. And hopefully, the vision is to give them insight into our system level supply and demand. And to help inform advocacy efforts and support sector sustainability, but also really give legislators and the people that make decisions about our infrastructure in early childhood in the state of Connecticut up to date and accurate data to make those decisions for families and children. So never mind. Our proposed approach to portal design is really going from where we are today, which is visioning and designing, like what do we want to be true once the portal is complete? And we will then begin to translate that into a technology solution. Like, what is the best tech solution to support this vision that we put in place with parents and providers and OEC staff and advocates and legislators and all of our partners, and then move into implementation planning. How do we make this vision a reality? Huge part of that is how do we build off of systems we already have, and how do we market and train and include everybody who is part of the system in implementation so that they're fully aware of what's available to them and how to use it. And throughout all three of those phases, we plan on providing stakeholder engagement. We have been listening since, I want to say, August or September, to the people that are going to touch this field. What do you want from this? How do you think this will look? What is important to you? Just to make sure that we're really building something that is going to impact families and children and providers because it's something they want to use. So stakeholder engagement to date. So we started very strong with internal meetings. And the reason why we did that is we wanted to make sure that every department or every unit or division within OEC was aware of what's happening and was able to give input and suggestions and ideas and be part of building this out, because our goal is to make this the go-to place for parents. Birth to 3, you go to this portal. Home visiting, you go to this portal. How do I find a child care provider? You go to this portal. There's a recall on formula, you go to this portal. So we really wanted to include all of our partners internally to make sure that we were moving forward with one vision as one team. So we listened to every department, and then we created a project management team within OEC, and there is at least one person from each department who sits on that project management team. There are obviously some teams that have more participation, like, for example, grants and fiscal, our CCDF team, our early start team. There's some departments that have IT, obviously have more partners sitting at that table, but there's somebody from each division who sits at that table to help guide this work that we're doing and making sure we don't leave anything that is within our realm or our scope of work out. We also have met with external steering committees. We've met with our early childhood cabinet, our parent cabinet. We've leaned on our external steering committee for feedback. We have an actual portal advisory group, and we were very strategic in creating this group. We went out and we asked people who we don't normally hear from, because we hear from a lot of the same people on the early childhood cabinet and our external steering committee. A lot of those people cross over, and a lot of those people are people we hear from often. So we wanted to hear from a really wide variety of participants. So, we have family child care providers in rural communities as well as the city. We have parents from different parts of the state. We have centers that are big corporate centers. We have little centers. We have so many different people that we don't normally talk to on a regular basis sitting on this portal advisory group to really help us. And then we, of course, have had statewide listening sessions. We've leaned into, for example, Ava has been kind enough to invite us to this meeting to participate, but we're looking to lean into meetings that are already occurring around the state so that we can meet families and partners where they already are going. We don't want them to have to go somewhere else. We want to lean into places where they're already comfortable and they already feel heard, and it's a part of their normal routine. And we've also looked at what other states are doing. For example, Alabama, Colorado, Louisiana, New Orleans, to be specific, South Carolina, and Utah. So we're really looking at this from multiple lenses, hearing from many, many different people, because again, if we don't build this for the people and the people don't see themselves in it, they're not going to see value in it. We really want to make sure that this is what families and providers and participants are looking for in this portal. And I do want to pause before I punt this over to my friends. I do want to say that this isn't legislation. This is something that we have to do according to legislation. So we are legislatively required to create this one entry portal that has many of the components that we have talked to providers and families about, being able to search for childcare, being able to apply for subsidy, being able to track data. So we are required by legislation to do this, and we have till July 1st, 2028 to complete phase one of the portal, which is what is basically in the legislate required by legislation. But we do have big plans to build out and really make this portal what families and providers need it to be. And now I am going to turn it over to my friends at Civic Solutions Group.
Thanks, Jill. So I'm going to just talk a little bit around sort of how we're thinking about defining the parent experience and some of the takeaways we've had from engagement so far. There are sort of three core questions that we've continued to focus on as it relates to the parent experience. One is sort of what information would they want to see on the search aspect of it as it relates to sort of program profiles? What functionality is actually important? And then how do we ensure that it's accessible to all families? With regard to what we have heard to date, through all that stakeholder engagement that Jill outlined, the most important elements that we've heard around are sort of the program type, whether that is a family childcare, a Head Start, so forth and so on, whether the subsidies are accepted and how to access them, cost for care and what's included within that, so the parents really understand at the end of the day what their costs are. Logistics, so everything ranging from the location to the hours of operation and sort of best way to contact the provider. And what are the various parent engagement opportunities? We've heard feedback ranging from open door policies to cameras in the classroom. How can they really have a sense of what is happening within the classroom, within the center that they are sending their child to? We do still have an active poll, I believe, correct, Gabby? And Gabby is putting the link to that that code in there as well, so that you can also contribute your thoughts on that. Okay. And sort of what we have heard around these things as it relates to functionality is the ability to sort and filter programs by what matters most to the families. Um, Additionally, to be able to see what seats are actually available. Rather than seeing every single center, if they can't accept the child, the parent would really like to know whether or not this is feasible or viable for their child to attend the program. They would like to be able to compare multiple programs. You can think about, different online platforms I'm sure you have all used where you can sort of select a number of different options and have them compared, adding themselves to wait list, the ability to sort of save or favorite programs so they can come back to it, and the ability to sort of sign up and have regular communication updates from that program. And I believe my colleague Gabby is again putting a link in the chat. And
It's all the same link, Justin. I'm just changing the question as you
Okay.
change slides.
Great. So this question right now is around the functionality. And then with regard to accessibility, we've heard the importance of really thinking about accessibility from multiple angles. Obviously, language and translations and ability for own language to be able to access this information. The idea of email support, sort of how can they use the system better, frequently asked questions, and phone support. So again, we would love any contributions on here if there's sort of additional accessibility outside of these things that we haven't named. Gabby?
I think before we move on to the provider experience, I wonder if anyone who sort of listened to what Justin just had to share and saw what we've heard from other parents, if there are parents with us tonight, does anyone want to share their thoughts on any of the feedback we've heard from parents? Does it feel like it's right on and you agree with it? Do you think something is missing that we should know about? If you weren't able to take the poll, because I know they came up pretty quickly, if you want to come off mute and just share your thoughts, that's welcome. All right, I'll take that silence and I will keep us moving. We've also had a similar set of conversations with providers, which is what do they need from this portal to make it useful and accessible for them. What we know is if providers aren't actively using this portal and giving families information, it is not helpful to families. And so we need both providers and families to be invested in the success of the portal. And we know we can't just say providers will use it because they're being told they have to. That alone is not enough. Many of us have children, we already know this. people will still say no or find a way not to do what you're telling them. And we also can't assume providers will use this because it's just the right thing to do for everyone, because it's sort of there's a moral imperative. That is really meaningful, but if the portal is too challenging for them to use, that won't be enough for them to use it. So we've asked a set of questions about provider experience. Justin can flip to the next slide. The first thing we asked providers was, what are the kinds of things that OEC can do to encourage their participation? And what you can see in this pie chart is that the biggest set of responses we have gotten to that question is provide comprehensive training and support for them to use the portal. That is really that is the most important or most common answer that we received. The other things that providers have said is to provide incentives to use the portal. And I imagine many of them are talking about financial incentives to help them have the staff and the resources to be actively engaged. A number of folks said to make it easy to use, to connect the portal to existing systems that they already use, to collect all required documents, to be responsive, to be accountable and take feedback from providers. This gives you a sense of what providers are most interested in as OEC builds this out and what they most need from OEC. The link doesn't work. Fascinating. I'm going to try to turn it off and turn it back on. All right, let me know if that works. On the next slide, we can see another question we've asked them, which is, one of the calls to action for this portal is that it is too hard for families to find care and too hard for providers sometimes to find the families who need them. And so hopefully the poll has switched to this question. You can see here what providers have said their biggest challenges are around filling their seats. Some cite having no problem, which is great. That's not surprising. But a number of them cite marketing as a challenge. And marketing comes down to, I think, three things, which is the cost to market, the staffing time it takes to figure out your marketing strategy, and frankly, the know-how that, centers are all sizes and all types, and not everyone knows how to market or how to sort of think about ad space and where to sort of go out to find families. So marketing came up. The cost of care for families came up, that sometimes they can find families, but families simply can't afford them, which is certainly a challenge we know of. Many cited staffing challenges, that in fact they are licensed to offer more seats, but they don't have the staff in order to sort of fill all those seats. And financial resources in general being a challenge. So the poll is up, but if anyone has other thoughts on this, please feel free to drop it in the chat or come off mute and share. And then there's one more question that we will get to in a second. Ooh, I see new answers coming in on the poll. Thank you so much for those of you who are adding to our information base. The final question, Justin, if you want to go forward there, is, one of the things, as Jill said, there are parts of the portal that are governed by legislation that OEC has to do. But one of the opportunities the portal provides us with is a chance to do things that are just helpful and useful to the people using the portal. So we've asked providers whether there are day-to-day tasks that could be helpful and sort of included as part of the portal. And this is the poll question that's up now if you want to add to it. But here you can see the sort of top 5 answers we've gotten from providers. There are a number of providers who understandably maybe don't want or need bells and whistles. They want to be able to opt out of functionality that is not required, in part because they're worried about having just another system when they already have a childcare management system that's working for them. And you can see that in some of those quotes on the screen. It would have to do everything, or it's a redundant system. And we already have a CCMS tool, which is working perfectly. But others were excited about this, about making things digital. Um, Staff and child sign in, sign out, customizable forms and incident tracking, medical paperwork, tracking immunizations, and care plans. That came through in a number of responses. Other providers also like the idea of being able to have a communication portal with current and prospective families, to communicate with families who are looking for childcare and to message families back and forth as they are considering whether you're the right center for them or as you have to message them about issues with their child if they're currently enrolled. Others were excited to think about sort of roster and waitlist management, potentially one place to see all of your kids, not multiple places, and an ability to sort of organize and see and print waitlists so that you can manage those more easily. And then finally, the sort of fifth most popular sort of set of tools would be, proactive reminders and notifications. Like, wouldn't it be great if you just got sort of actively notified if there was something in the portal that required updating from you? So you didn't have to go in there to look to see if you had to do anything. It was telling you. And others noted that it would be great for families to get proactive communications around things like, annual documents or physicals and stuff like that. So very curious what you all think about any of these questions. I think this is our last real slide of feedback that we've been collecting, and we can pause here. This poll is open. But again, if anyone wants to come off mute and share their thoughts on anything they've heard, we welcome your feedback. And I see some comments in the chat. Thank you for popping those in there. All right, well, as you marinate on all of this, Justin, the last slide is ways you can stay engaged. I know we sort of covered a lot of content. And Ava, if it's helpful, we can share this deck with you so you can send it out to folks who are here tonight and anyone else. And if you wake up in the middle of the night and you have an idea or a thought or a piece of feedback, you can always go to OEC's website. There's a new webpage for the One Point of Entry portal, which will soon have a new name, we hope. And there is a feedback form. So you can tell us whatever it is that you're thinking about the portal, whether it is something you want to see, something you're worried about OEC doing, or an idea that you didn't hear tonight that you think would be good for us to know. I see two comments in the chat. One is about a direct contact to a portal like the Care for Kids portal. We are actively talking about how to make connections with existing OEC systems, so you don't have to sort of retype information if you're a provider, or you can see things in one place. The other comment is about whether or not there will be repercussions to providers if they do not use the portal. I think that's an interesting question. The question of the incentives and the mandates to use it are still under consideration, but you can imagine a world where there are, where licensed providers have to use the portal, for example. And so what would it mean if you didn't is an open question. I'm curious what you would think repercussions should be if providers don't actively use the portal. That is a good discussion. Jill, anything else you want to add?
No, I did enter the link for our page in the
Thank you.
chat. And, this will continue to build out and update. As well as I think I want to touch on the last thing. Like, our vision is to make this portal so user friendly and so valuable to providers that there will not be any reason to force anybody to do anything. I have experienced using a portal like this in my former life. It really does feel like a lifetime ago. I was I worked for the military child care system, and they have a system like this. And you can be a parent who lives in Germany who's got orders to Hawaii and search for child care in Hawaii. And it's just a very valuable tool on the back end as well. It can create your sign out sheets for you. It can keep your track of your shot records, your physicals that children need. We even heard something, I think, the other day that there is one organization that figured out how to bridge it to their CACFE food program that did a lot of their documentation for them. So again, the vision is to make this such almost like a virtual admin assistant for providers. So I just want to, that is our goal, to make you want to use it because it's going to be add value to your business. That- Eva, any questions for us or anything?
I do have a question. So I was wondering, and Jill, your comment right now about how the military platform really helped navigate for parents and providers. What does the vision look like for folks who might want to see this information, let's say on the provider end or even on the parent end, the immunization, the connection to the K to 12 system? Is that being thought out? Because I know that a lot of providers I've met and I've done site visits to home base and center base, they have some phenomenal relationships with the K to 12 system. They're telling, the teachers, this is what I did. These are some of the screenings that I did, especially for kids with special needs. So that relationship is very vital and very helpful to start that child off on the right, on the right step. The next educator knowing what happened in that child's life, is there thought to that relationship and the information that's being gathered to really kind of follow that child as they navigate out of infant care and toddler care? So I'm just curious.
Yeah. So, and even we've talked about the SACID, which is basically a unique student identifier. And the vision is to be able to take the information, the child's profile in our portal and I'll be okay. Assign a unique identifier to that child that will then transition with that child all the way through 12th grade, and potentially, depending on how the state builds their system on, it could be with them for their lifetime, so that we can see. I mean, right now we know that early intervention is important, but when we start gathering that data with that SACID as well, that'll help us. So we're really excited to figure out how to do that too, because, you know, we want to see what the investment in early childhood profits us later so that we can lean into that data and continue to ask money to feed for money to feed the infrastructure changes that we need. So yes, assigning a unique identifier is is something that we're striving for. And there's a question, I might touch on that, like tangible documents. And I'm assuming that is coming from a licensing perspective. Like, what do I show the licensor when I come if I have to prove a child has a shot record? Well, just like we support providers and train them how to use the system, we would support our licensing department on how to use the system to look for shot records, to look for the appropriate documentation for those kind of things, kind of like we train them on how to use BCIS. So we would train our people how to use these systems so that you wouldn't need paper and a digital system. Yes, the portal would. Oh, I'm not going to. Oh, Gabby's already answering them. I'll be quiet.
I just couldn't
I
answer the question above
I
about
think you should answer it. Yeah, for those who are not reading, I think it's worthy answering in live time
Okay.
by on air.
Okay.
I think it's also worthy mentioning, I know in our provider call on Monday, the conversation of potentially eliminating, or not potentially, looking to eliminate the paper version for subsidized programs like Care for Kids. Like, what's the impact on eliminating paper in other programs? And that relationship with this portal. I'm curious to hear more what that relationship looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the vision is to make things digitized, right? And to keep things, again, our licensors can go out and, most often before our licensing visits happen, they will check BCIS before they even come out for the visit. But being able to, and some of you, there's providers who are already using a child care management system that when the licensor comes out, they say, oh, I have ProCare, or I have this, or I have that. And the documents, the bottom line is nowhere in licensing does it say you have to show me a paper document. you have to have documentation of. So the goal would be to again digitize this and be able to have files online in the portal for providers to access with ease.
Okay. Just looking at the questions. Anybody want to come off mute again and enter in this dialogue with us? Si te quieres salir de mudo y entrar en esta conversación con nosotros, déjanos saber, por favor. So anyone come off mute? No. There's so many people here.
This won't be the last time we're here either, right? We'll come back. You know, we speak with Eva often, and we do talk to her in a couple of our other groups. So she always knows when new stuff's coming, and she's gonna, pull Eloise and I and say, okay, can you come to my group? But once we start building things out, and we have some more concrete things, we're gonna take it out to the field to hear what families think about it, to hear what providers think about it, to pressure test it. So this won't be the last time we'll be in front of you, being able to share with you.
Because we have so much time, if I know we didn't discuss this, OEC and Civic Solutions team, we do have the opportunity to do breakout rooms and test that out if you want to see if that promotes any more interaction or comments. But just let me know because we do have a lot of people on right now.
I think
I'm gonna list my coordinators.
whatever you think is best, and as long as we have interpretation to support breakout rooms. If not, we can always, to Jill's point, come back, sooner rather than later once folks have had a chance to digest this and might have more to tell us. Either way.
Okay, so I'm gonna test it out and we'll give it, it's 7:11. We'll give it 10 minutes to see if 10 minutes in a breakout room is enough to maybe engage in the conversation. If you're a Spanish speaker, you can stay here. You don't have to select the breakout room. And then for the breakout rooms, what I'll do is we'll divide it into 4, a Spanish room and 3 English rooms. And I'll Jill, Gabriella, Justin, I'll assign you one to each room to help maybe navigate some questions there and see if people feel more comfortable sharing. So let's do it. And again, if you're Spanish speaking, you can stay here. Si eres alguien que habla español, puedes quedarte en este cuartito. Vamos a ver si en poder mejor navegar esta conversación, si es más fácil tener salones más pequeños para sentirte más cómodo en compartir tus opiniones. Okay, este es el salón de español. This is the Spanish room, so if you're a non-Spanish speaker, then you can go ahead and join one of the 3 rooms that we have and see if folks feel more comfortable speaking. Este es el salón de español, so si hablas español te puedes quedar aquí. If you're a non-Spanish speaker, then you can go ahead and select rooms 1, 2, 3 to have a more intimate conversation with the state of Connecticut about the portal and the changes. We're just going to give it about 7 minutes to see if folks feel a little bit more comfortable in sharing. But like they said, they're going to have other conversations. Okay, so para mi gente que habla español, ¿qué opinan? So if you're an English speaker, let me see if I think I know some of you are English speakers. Mm. ¿Qué opinan? Para las personas que hablan español, ¿tienen opiniones de portal, comentarios? Um, ¿Están preocupados del portal o lo que están a punto de los cambios que van a hacer? Y este es un espacio seguro, un espacio de confianza. Por ahora mismo, en este momento, no hay nadie del Estado que está aquí en este espacio. Courtney and others, if you're an English speaker and you want to move to one of the breakout rooms, you can select a breakout room that's English speaking. We're using this space as the Spanish room. Um, okay, so for the Spanish people, um, uh, opiniones, comentarios, algo que piensas que miedo, um, algún comentario de lo que está a punto de ocurrir en el cambio del Estado con el cuidado infantil, cualquier comentario que quieren compartir. Déjame ver. Safia, Natalie, Jacqueline, Awilda, algún comentario. Ida, Brenda, hay muchos nombres aquí. Rosario, Nilda.
Hola, ¿cómo está? Yo quiero hablar, soy Eda Sánchez.
Hola.
Como cualquier cambio, ¿no? Algo nuevo para nosotros siempre es un poquito de, más que todo, intriga, miedo, cómo nos va a ir, ¿no? Pero si es algo para bien para nosotros y para los padres, yo creo que estamos todas preparadas para trabajar juntas, ¿no? Para que todo esto vaya bien y trabaje en forma, de ayuda para nosotros, ya que el día de hoy necesitamos ayuda y bastante. Gracias.
Sí. Gracias, Ida. So, todo el mundo necesita ayuda. ¿Alguien más? ¿Un comentario? ¿Sugerencia? ¿Sugerencia? ¿Miedo? Honestamente, estos comentarios así, si se recuerdan con la creación de la ley nueva con Early Start y el nuevo programa que está a punto de empezar, se creó con este mismo formato de comentarios vivo y después tomar esos comentarios y hacerlo como ley. Um, Ródica, ¿hablas español y tienes un comentario? Radhika, do you speak Spanish or English? Do you speak Spanish or English, Radhika? I see you on camera. I'm not sure if you're hearing.
English.
Radhika, English, Radhika. So we're doing some breakout sessions, Lynn and Radhika. We're doing some breakout sessions because we had so many people and we wanted to make sure that we were hearing some of
Mhm.
that feedback of how to create this portal. So I was just letting people know that when we created the Early Start legislation, we had these listening sessions, and this is now, my goodness, even going back to like the early childhood cabinet, now 3 years ago, we had listening sessions, and a lot of the feedback that we heard from providers and from parents made it into legislation and now is law. So we really are depending on comments, fears, feedback from folks to help us navigate what's to come. The state just presented that they want to phase out all of the paper applications for Care for Kids. They want to go electronic. We're aiming to do everything electronic through a portal, and they want it to be a one-stop shop for parents and providers. So we want to hear some feedback from all of you to see if that makes sense. So that's where we left off, but I'll see if I can put you in a breakout room. Um, where is your name? Okay. So I put you in a breakout room with English. So, el Estado acaba de presentar, si alguien acaba de llegar, el Estado acaba de presentar que la meta de aquí a un año es tener todas las aplicaciones de subsidios y programas que sean en una forma virtual, que sea virtual, que no sea papel. El ejemplo que están usando es el programa de Care for Kids, que ahora mismo el programa de Care for Kids tiene virtual y tiene aplicaciones de papel todavía. So, esta transición es drástica, ¿verdad? Pero el Estado se siente que es necesaria y queríamos asegurar que ustedes tienen opiniones, están ayudando a navegar esta transición. So, ¿algún otro comentario que quizás sería vital, necesario para mejor crear este portal? Mari, Rafaela, veo muchos nombres aquí. ¿Algún comentario? Sheila.
Perdóname, te interrumpo. Soy Ada Sánchez de nuevo. En ese
Sí.
tema de lo que son las aplicaciones de los grant, me gustaría poner un comentario. Siempre yo he tratado de llenar aplicaciones, por ejemplo, con Women Business. Y se me ha hecho pero muy difícil todo lo que piden en el momento. Entonces yo tanto así a medio de la aplicación he dejado. ¿Por qué? Porque mi trabajo, los niños, o sea, de por sí nosotros ya vivimos en un estrés y todo por el trabajo. Nuestro trabajo no es fácil y nos piden más información y se nos hace difícil. Sin embargo, si van a hacer eso, no sería un punto que sea algo para ayuda de nosotros y que también nos facilite con el proceso, ¿no?
So, preguntita. Que en el proceso de esas aplicaciones
De las aplicaciones.
todo se hace con el portal de ellos y no el portal de ellos o la aplicación de ellos no como que no se conecta con la información del Estado
No,
y
es
piden
todo
mucho.
separado y todo tengo que dar toda la información de mí, ¿no? De mi persona y mandar papeles y todo y no tienen nada de información del Estado y de una u otra manera genera un poco de estrés y es mucho, ¿no? Información y cosas que uno no sabe.
Y otra preguntita. Cuando tú aplicas para, vamos a decir, esa beca,
Sí.
beca de una silla nueva, la beca de
Ok.
la silla,
Ajá.
um, tú llenas esa aplicación, le das básicamente tu vida y después para el próximo año hay una beca de sofá. Nuevamente tienes que dejarle saber la misma información de
Lo
nuevo.
mismo, de nuevo, lo mismo
Uh,
de nuevo, lo mismo de
Ay,
nuevo.
Dios mío.
Entonces
Ok.
empezar de nuevo y sacar números, hablar con el contador, porque te piden una cosa, te piden otra cosa, y sin embargo ya llegas el momento que tú dices, no, ya eso no es para mí, no puedo.
Ay,
Entonces sería bueno que
wow.
faciliten eso, ¿no? Porque así como yo creo que todas necesitamos la ayuda, ¿no? Y también ver la manera que si uno aplica, porque somos muchas proveedoras, y si uno aplica y uno recibe la ayuda, sería bueno que den también la facilidad de que otra persona sea la siguiente vez, no siempre la misma, ¿no? Porque ha pasado a veces que pasa, que mucha gente recibe todos los
Sí.
incentivos y no todas los recibimos.
Sí, sí. Ay,
Ujú.
Dios mío. Eso sí es un dolor de cabeza, que tienes que ingresar nuevamente toda
Todo,
la
es
misma
todo,
información.
toda la información. Y te piden medidas, y te piden contratos, y te piden una cosa, y te piden otra cosa, y a veces esas son cosas que salen de tus manos.
Y me imagino que tú estás pensando que ya tú dices esa información.
Yo ya la di la información y tanto así que a veces cuando se presentan ayudas, yo ya la pienso en llenar la aplicación, ¿tú me entiendes? Porque me quiero ahorrar el dolor de cabeza antes de agarrar el dinero, ¿no? A veces me facilito de esa manera. Sé que es un dinero que yo necesito, por ejemplo, para arreglar mi daycare o para ampliar cuando ellos dan ayuda, pero a veces yo prefiero sacarlo de mi paquete o hacerme un préstamo con el banco, lo pagando poco a poco, a generarme toda esa tensión y el dolor de cabeza.
Okay. Última palabra, gracias, Eva.
Ujú.
Rosario, última palabra y comentario, Rosario.
Sí,
Siguiente.
bueno, comentando lo de Eda, que lo que comenta,
Mm.
bueno, yo voy a dar un punto de opinión. Yo conocí así a un señor que por lo
Am
mismo de
I
los
am I
préstamos
back
del
at the right
gobierno,
place?
Yeah,
eh,
yeah, you're back at the right place. We're just wrapping up
este,
the Spanish. Sí, sí, and I'll
de
translate.
los préstamos, que la señora siempre está pidiendo préstamos y es algo que ella dice, yo siempre que los pido me lo dan, o sea, cada que se abre lo de préstamos, la señora tiene los préstamos y como uno luego aplica, como dice la compañera, uno aplica y no te lo dan, no te lo dan y como a esas personas que ya se los dieron muchas veces, se los dan. Y
Gracias, Rosario.
siguen siendo las mismas gentes, porque yo conozco un trabajador que les trabaja y es las mismas, no quiero decir nombres, pero son las
Sí.
mismas señoras que les dan la ayuda. Y a nosotros que, bueno, que queremos ayuda, que sí en verdad lo necesitamos para una urgencia, es como yo también apenas lo quise pedir porque necesitaba yo para mi casa, que era urgente, dijeron, no, es que ya no, ya se acabaron, entonces tienes que esperar hasta el próximo.
Uf, gracias, Rosario.
Sí.
Rosario. We are back, and I will sum up Ida's and Rosario's comments to just kick us off, and hopefully the breakout rooms are a little bit more lively. So we had some good feedback. I'll start with Rosario's comment right now. Rosario is just saying that, or it's like a combination of some of the feedback that happened in our breakout session, that a lot of these applications that exist for anything that you have to do in the childcare world are redundant. And, be it the provider or be it the parent, you're applying and you're putting the same information over and over and over and over again to all of these different entities. And it's cumbersome and it's painstaking and it's necessary but annoying. So it's like, if this portal truly is a one-stop shop, then take into consideration that there's a bunch of different applications that are not just like state subsidies, that might be state programs that are through a third party. Like an example that was given on the provider end is WBDC grants. A lot of the information that they're asking are information that the state is requiring to be asked. And they have, every time they apply, they have to put in all of this information again and again and again each year to qualify. And for a parent, if you go from one childcare space to another childcare space, how many times can you share, your income, your family, and why not in the portal be a one-stop shop where you're putting that information, it lives there, it can be then filtered out to whatever nonprofit, to whatever grant, to whatever subsidy, without having to go through the painstaking problem of having to redo it, because people just don't have time. And then Rosario's comment was kind of like even more poignant on the frustration that when you do take all that time and you do apply to all of these grants and to all of this, this money or these opportunities, then it doesn't feel like the people who are getting those opportunities to use it are in fact uh, different people, that it always feels like it's the same people getting the same help, and it doesn't feel like there's a spreading of services and support. So I'll pass it over to the facilitators, but that's what I got in my breakout room.
What I'm going to say
Could
to
I
that
ask
is
a
yes,
question?
you are correct.
Um,
Multiple, Mine's still muted? No, okay. Multiple times you have to enter the same information. And I don't know how many of you have ever filled out a FAFSA, the financial aid for your children. For college, the first year you do it, it's a nightmare. You have to put everything in there. Like they want to know like your first grade teacher, right? But the second year you do it, it auto populates. And that's the vision. We're working to partner with other state agencies like DSS and other state agencies that offer different subsidies and supports for families so that families only have to enter this information once. So we very much are looking in that. And we also know that OEC systems themselves ask you for the same information over and over again. So we're looking to tie them all together in the back end. What I can say with the surety is it's very easy for us to tie state systems together. I don't know that it would be that easy with privacy and requirements And all of those legal things that I know very little about, but I know they exist. I'm not sure that we would be able to connect with WBDC, but I'm not saying that's an absolute no. But I do know it's much easier to do it within our state systems.
Can
We
I
hear
ask,
you. Nobody wants to enter that all the time. No.
can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I kind of missed out the first part of the meeting. What I want to ask you, the application you guys talking about, would it be an app? You putting everything into all the information? Would it be an
The,
app like? Because
the
I know some
information
states use an app.
the information will be mobile friendly. I don't know if it'll be an app. It might be a website, but it'll work on your phone the same way it works on your computer.
Okay, that sounds good. Because I know some state that use an app, and once they put in everything, it stays. Once you have the app and you open it, and you know some app you have a password, you will see each individual stuff. So
Yes,
that's what I wanted to know.
there'll be something similar like that as French, where you,
Oh, okay.
as
Well, that would
providers,
be
you will have a
good.
place to log in, and as parents as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Well, we are at time. I think the breakouts were slightly more lively and a little bit more helpful to you, hopefully. Um, like the OEC team said, this is not the last time they're doing this. We are so grateful that you shared the space here at Childcare First UT. We are also grateful for our parent and provider community. Mi gente, gracias por todo. You have a great evening. Pase buenas noches. Nuevamente, gracias a OEC, el equipo. Y este no va a ser la última noche que hacemos algo así. So esté pendiente. Everyone, stay tuned. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Yeah, everybody.
Bye,
Gracias.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Have a good
Thank you.
night.
Good night,
Everyone.
everyone.
Bye.